overjoyed to share a little bit of our story here to anyone that's willing to listen.
Well, I guess to start off, could you tell us a little bit about Chimp Haven and how you became involved working there?
Absolutely. So Chimp Haven is a nonprofit organization that currently serves as the federal sanctuary system for chimpanzees that have previously been used in biomedical research. And because of that biomedical research and the determinations from the National Institutes of Health, they have been released for retirement. And that is ideal for us here because that means that they are relocated from the research setting to the sanctuary setting. So we provide end-of-life care, sanctuary care, what we call the chimp life, to the animals that have been retired from either research, the entertainment industry, or past pets.
Okay, so tell us...
Sorry, I was going to tell you how I ended up here, but you can go ahead with the next.
Oh, no, go ahead. Tell us how you ended up there. Yep.
So absolutely. So I started out knowing that I was really interested in non-human primate medicine. If I'm honest, I thought I'd be the next African-American Jane Goodall. My life's path didn't lead me to care of the wild population, but it did lead me to care of the captive population. And so when I found out about Chimp Haven, I applied. I was actually urged from a supervisor that they would be looking for a veterinarian. I applied for the position, and then the rest was history. It was my dream position because I had stated if I could just work with chimpanzees, that was my ultimate lifelong goal. And here it is. I'm actually now at the world's largest chimpanzee sanctuary, living out my dream and providing long life care to the animals that have really devoted so much to us as a human species through their research efforts.
Wow. What was it about chimpanzees that made you pick them to be the animals that you wanted to work with?
If I'm honest, it was their complexity. And so chimpanzees are highly intelligent, which makes the practice of medicine challenging. And it forced me or any veterinarian that works with chimpanzees to have to think outside of the box in treatment modalities. And for me, I love a challenge, and that is why this position was really, interesting to me because of the chimpanzees that we house here.
Yep. Now, you work with rescued chimpanzees. Tell us a little bit about what kind of condition they're in when they first arrive at the Haven, and how do you notice that they change after spending time at the Haven?
So absolutely. So the benefit of part of the work that our teams do here is that we work really hard with ascending institutions. And so we have a pretty good profile of the chimpanzees prior to their arrival. We have pictures, we have communications with their behavioral staff, so we know what their likes and their dislikes are, what sorts of medications they have trouble with. So we really have a global understanding of who they are. So when they arrive to the sanctuary, we allow them the opportunity to acclimate, right? We're providing them with a change in facility, a change in staffing. So we allow them to acclimate, and they really come in great condition. I'm not going to always say great condition, but they come in, because they have veterinarians at their sending institutions that are providing them with good care. They really do come in good condition, but again, it's going to vary by individual. We always say that every chimp is an individual, so it's on a case-by-case basis. The largest change that we see is really in how they interact or integrate into our existing social hierarchies. So after we clear them from our quarantine process, it is also our job to figure out how to get them integrated into our existing population, which means that they have to figure out where they're going to fall in the pecking order, that social hierarchy, development of relationships and friendships, who's going to be the alpha or the beta, or will you be a dominant animal or a subordinate animal? Those are primarily the major changes that we see when we introduce them into larger subgroups.
Awesome. So what was your first thoughts when National Geographic contacted the Haven about doing the documentary?
It was both excitement and a little bit of fear. I knew that it would be a really extensive process, right? So for me, I wondered, how in the world are we going to be able to have the camera system set up so that we're able to truly capture them in their natural environment? chimpanzees are extremely strong. One chimpanzee has the strength of 7 adult men, which means that they destroy and break things pretty readily. I was really pleased with the National Geographic team and their equipment that they had, that it actually was able to uphold some of the wear and tear caused by the chimpanzees that we house. So I was really excited to share, what we see on a day-to-day basis, right? It's really hard for us, for one, to truly utilize words to describe what we do, the relationships that we build, and even the relationships that the chimpanzees build with one another. So I was excited about that, but at the same time, I knew that it would be a pretty extensive amount of time and energy from our staff that would be required in affording this opportunity. But it absolutely was done well. The National Geographic team worked very well with our teams. They learned our policies and our procedures. Everything was done with the utmost of care, with their chimpanzee health and welfare being the top priority.
So how did having the cameras around change the way the chimps behave? I volunteer here with an organization that works with orangutans, and we know that as soon as the media shows up, the orangutans go into a show-off kind of stage. How did the cameras change the way the chimps reacted every day?
Well, I would say initially, most of the chimpanzees recognized the cameras as something different, and so it was really a lot of observation, a lot of manipulation of the cameras. But over time, it almost seemed as if they weren't too interested in them, and then we were able to truly just capture them in their day-to-day. Like, right, they're in these large subgroups. They're exhibiting their species typical behaviors, so they're doing their morning or afternoon treks in the habitats, and so they really were just continuing to be chimpanzees, and we were able to capture that footage.
Yep. What was the one thing that really surprised you that the documentary captured that you weren't sure whether they would be able to capture or not?
Actually, my favorite portion of the documentation was this nighttime footage. So they placed cameras that would afford the opportunity to see what the chimps are doing at night. We do have a small group of employees that stay and monitor the chimps throughout the night, but the chimps are usually bedding down and they're pretty quiet when I leave at the end of the day. So I suspected that the majority of their nights were used just for sleeping and resting. But actually what we captured is that they're still patrolling any sort of abnormality, any wildlife that may get into their habitats. So that's something that I'm really fortunate that we were able to capture. But at the same time, it was really interesting to just see that dynamic at night.
Now, we would love people to be educated by both the documentary but also this interview. So I know that people keeping chimps as pets is still a big issue around the world. Tell us a little bit about why having a chimp as a pet is not a great idea for both the chimp and also for the people doing it.
Well, first and foremost, we now know that chimpanzee use as pets is now illegal in most of the states. So that's a benefit. So one, it's illegal. But two, we talked about the strength of chimpanzees. We talk about how intelligent they are, and it's really difficult for any individual to be able to provide that chimpanzee with what they will need to just be a chimp, right? So that means very early on, a caretaker would not be able to physically handle a chimpanzee. With them, having the strength of 7 adult men, they could very easily hurt a caretaker when it may not be their intent. Secondarily, they have to be psychologically stimulated, which means that here at our facility, we offer what's known as environmental enrichment. That can be very difficult for an individual caretaker to provide them with in a home. We always say that the best treatment for a chimpanzee is another chimpanzee. They were created to live in large social groups and to interact with one another. So I would like to advise the general public that pet ownership of a chimpanzee is definitely not in the best interest of that human caretaker or the chimpanzee.
Definitely. Dr. J, I know you are very, very busy and you've given us so much of your time already. To finish up, what would you like people to take away from this documentary?
I would love for people to just recognize that chimpanzees are individuals that are capable of developing relationships with one another, but also with their caretakers. I think in the state of our current nation, we're seeing a lot of division, and naturally, with the coronavirus, we're a little isolated. And so, what the documentary truly shows is an exhibit of love and camaraderie and friendships. And I really think that that's something that more globally we could learn from them. Is though we may have our differences, it truly is at the core of who we are to love one another and develop favorable, long-lasting relationships.
Definitely. That is such an amazing message to finish the interview with. Thank you so much for chatting to us today. Again, congratulations on such an amazing documentary, and I would love to visit Chimp Haven one day.
Well, as soon as we can lift our visitor restrictions, we'd love to host a visit with you, and I appreciate you taking some time with us this evening.
No problem. You have a great afternoon, and hopefully we get to chat again in the future.
All right. Take care, Dave.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.